I swore I wasn't going to buy any more pens until after I moved, but I couldn't help myself. I really wanted to check these out. Hi everybody, today I am taking a look at the Scribbles That Matter Fineliner set. These are not new. They've been out for a couple of years, but I hadn't really had them on my radar. I think you guys have mentioned them to me a few times and it just kept getting pushed away and getting pushed away. But then when I got my new Scribbles That Matter journal, which if you haven't seen my video of that, I'll link it up above. I'm having some real issues here. I'm going to keep using this meme because I love it so much. But I'm having some real issues about whether I'm going to stick with my beloved Barrett Fig and get another one, or if I'm going to move to the Scribbles That Matter when I run out of space in this bullet journal, but that's an entirely different story. The journal came with one of these Fineliners, and I was like, this is pretty nice. I kind of like this, so I want to check it out. So I decided to order the set, and that's what we're going to check out today. I've actually been testing the one that came with my journal. I used it in my Power Sheets setup, which I'll also link up above. At first, I thought this 04 meant that it was an 04 tip, which made me wonder because when I saw this set online, it was a 0.7 millimeter tip, which is not 04. And so I was like, maybe this is a different size. But then I checked this one versus the black one in here, and they were the same size. And I was like, what the actual fuck? And then I looked closer when I opened them and saw that each color has its own number. So the number is not the tip size, the number is the color, which is great. That's all great. Now the colors each have their own number. However, I was very confused. So let's talk a little bit about these before I get into them. They come in this metal tin that says Scribbles That Matter. It's a 24 count set. This is the largest set that I was able to find. They were $25 on Amazon for 24 markers, which is a little pricey compared to the Statlers, which you can get on Amazon for $25, but it's a 36 count set. And Statlers are what I'll refer back to. I can't directly compare them in front of you right now because my Statlers are packed. However, I have used them enough times to be able to at least give you some of my knowledge about the Statlers, and that's who they're most directly comparable to because of the shape and the size of the tip. Claims from Amazon say inks that dry immediately so you have no smears or smudges on your creative work. Dense pigment ink means no bleeding through paper. So we will test both the no bleed and the quick drying claims. I was looking at the black pen and then I thought maybe there's something different with the color pens versus the black, and I was right. So I'm glad I grabbed the color pen. So this is color 16, looks like kind of a peachy color. The body of the pen is very similar to a Statler with that tripless triangle shape. One thing that I notice here is that there are stripes of color down each side of the pen, like down each corner of the pen, and they're a little wider, so maybe that's why it feels a little bit more comfortable in my hand. I don't know. The color of the pen is shown by the cap, the stripes down the corners, and the base of the pen. The cap has a couple of kind of bumpy situations. I don't know if that's supposed to keep it from sliding or what, but they're kind of pleasant to run my hand along. The body of the pen itself is matte, but with a slight sheen, black, and then silver foil for the lettering. They're not very weighty. They feel a little light, kind of plasticky. Now, the cap, there's no grip. The cap, it almost feels like the cap is bigger than the end of the pen. There's no grip. I would say that if you're holding it perfectly sideways, it would come off, but if you fling it, it would just fall right off. So thumbs down to that. The pen clip is very flimsy. So the lid itself is kind of flimsy, but the pen's not going to roll because of its tripless style, so you don't need the cap for that. Without the cap, it's still a pretty decent length, at least for the size of my hand. The tip itself is a metal case tip with the fineliner tip at the end, much like a Statler and a Stabilo. And and this part is also the same color as the ink. And then, like I said, these are a 0.7 millimeter tip. Now the caps on the other end, though, they snap on very satisfyingly and don't they pull off fairly easily, but there is a certain amount of pull you have to give, so it feels like they do cap very well, even if they don't go on well on the end of the pen. This is just one of my drawing paper sketchbooks. It's like an Arteza sketchbook or something. I'm just using this so that you can kind of see what's going on. So here is the black. And then here is the color 16, which I'm assuming is kind of like a peachy color. They write really comfortably. When I noticed in my Power Sheets that I was pushing down pretty hard, I'm very heavy-handed, and the tip stood up to it. It didn't bend or split apart. I don't know how long it will completely hold up because I haven't tried them for that long, But normally when I press down with a pen like this, if the tip is gonna like smush or split, then you'd see that, and I don't see that here. So far the tips are comfortable to write with and sturdy enough to not completely die under my heavy hand. Let's take a second here and test the quick drying, no smear. And there was a smear. And that was like not instantaneous drying. I waited for like a second or two, and there's a teeny little bit of a smear right where the pen like pulled up, so there was a bit of an ink pool there. I counted 3 seconds and it didn't smear. So they're not super smeary, but they don't dry the moment you put the ink on the paper. And on this drawing paper, at least, there is shadowing, but no bleed. We will test this out in my Baron Fig notebook, which is 90 GSM paper. So I think that that's a decent pen testing. The Scribbles That Matter paper is 100 GSM, the one that I have. They have 160 GSM. But if it doesn't bleed on 90 GSM paper, then for most journaling papers, I feel like it should be okay. Bleed test. So as you can see here, there's no bleed, but there is shadowing. All right, now I am going to go back into my sketchbook because I think on the white paper, it'll look the most obvious, and we will test all of the colors. And fuck, I just tried to put the cap on the end of this and it flung into my lap. That I don't care for. So here are the colors. Couple of things. I have 3 things to point out before I talk about the overall color range. First of all, I really dislike when colors are named skin or flesh or something like that, because not everybody's skin is that color. So pick a different color. Peach would work with that, or jaune brilliant, which is the color in paint, and I actually really like that name. But skin, really? No. Secondly, there's a typo. I'm assuming color number 10, it's either violet or voilet, like toilet, question mark? And then thirdly, my copper number 18 was dried out. You can see here, it's just like basically Garbo, which bums me out. And I looked in the reviews on Amazon, and I am not the only one who got a dried out pen or two. So there is that. Color selection wise, they're all very usable with the exception of skin and yellow. And I mean, for me, copper, but I imagine it's regular, like non-dried out version would be good. These are all saturated enough to show up in your planners or in your bullet journals, so there is that. I do love that there is a huge assortment of greens, as green is one of my favorite colors, and green is great for doing botanicals. I will say, though, that the differences between dark green and green, there's a difference. It's not super obvious, but there's only one yellow. There is very few in the way of reds and pink. Like another pink would be nice maybe, or another purple would be nice. The light green and the lime green are very similar. The dark green and the green are very similar. You could take one of those and add another color somewhere else in the range. Most of the colors do match their caps, but I find the naming conventions to be a little weird. Like dark green is lighter than green, and olive brown is much more of an olive green. I don't really see a brown there. It's more of green. And I have no idea how the numbers were chosen. There's no like rhyme or reason to them. They just are kind of all over the map. So when I was swatching this, it was a little confusing. Overall, the color selection is pretty. Cost-wise, they're more expensive than Statler's. Color selection-wise, there's less of them, so you have less of a color selection than Statler's. Statler's come with a little bit more neon colors. This one has maybe the yellow as a neon, but even the bright orange isn't really a neon. I thought it was going to be because the cap kind of looked like a neon, but that's one of the colors that's the least like its cap. So if neon is something you're interested in, then I'd go with the Statler's. I would suggest that especially since I got a dried out one. I haven't checked their customer service. Usually their customer service is really great, so I'm not worried about that. However, I can't in good conscience recommend you to spend $25 on this set when you could spend $25 on the bigger set from Statler, which are similar in comfort. You can leave them uncapped and they don't dry. There are more colors to choose from, and they're the same shape if you're cool with the tripless shape. The biggest reason I would say to go for this is if you're hella fan of green, you will get, it looks like 6 greens in this pack. Out of, that's like what, a quarter? That's a quarter of the 24 pack is green. I'm not super impressed with these. They're not terrible, aside from the one that's dried out, and I like how comfortable they are to write with them. I would almost wish that I could just buy a pack of these black ones, because I feel like I would use the shit out of the black ones, because they are very comfortable, similar to the how I'm liking the Optimus Fineliners from Amazon. I would buy a pack of the black ones and use them, but the color pack to me is not really worth the money compared to some of the other things that you can get on the market. So that's my opinion. This is all my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these, and if there are pens you would like me to take a look at once I have moved, so I don't buy any more right now, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, friends, peace out.